Hey everyone, and welcome to the Angular live stream. I'm your host, Mark Texan from the Angular team, and I'm joined by the one, the only, the fantastic, our fearless product lead, DevRel extraordinaire before, just engineer, just doing so much cool stuff for Angular, the one and only Minko Gechev. How are you, Minko?
Great, Mark. Thank you for the intro.
Yeah, of course, of course. Hey friends, off screen, I have a soda that I'm drinking, so no judging today. All right. I should have put it in this mug. Then it would have been more on brand. You know what's in my mug at home, friends? A little cleaning cloth. Don't ask me why this is in here. I can't drink it though. All right, let's see who's in the building. We got a lot of friends chiming in from everywhere. Ania, hello. Mohit, hello, 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 hello. What's going on? Erky, what's going on? Michael Small in the building. Andres, what's up? Joe Alternate, what's up, Joe Alternate? Justin, haven't seen you in a while. Welcome back. Good to see you. Tayamba in the building. Evgeny, what's going on? Michael Faith, one and only. What's up? Siva, Juan, what's up? All right, friends. I'm gonna say hi to a couple more people, but because we have Minko's time, he's so busy that he agreed to hang out with us for an hour today. So I want to make sure we get a lot of time for your questions. So I'm not going to spend the entire time saying hello to you all like I usually do. But Yashraj didn't even care that I was here. He's like, I'm and team. You see that, Minko? That's how special you are. I'm and a team, and you get a shout out. Oh, I love it. Oh, look at that. Big fan of Minko. Of course you are. Of course you are. Everyone is. I am too. Jeremy, what's going on? Eunice, what's going on? So many people. Okay, who's saying hello, hello, hello? Gabrielle, what's going on? Steven. Oh, good question. First question from the streets.
The puppy is good. Just went through a vet inspection and seems to be healthy and well. He's in the other room.
How do they know about the puppy, Minko?
Well, I posted Augie everywhere. He's just one of these things that you can share. You need to share.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. All right. All right, friends. So here's what today's conversation is about. Of course, you can always ask us questions about Angular. We can't debug your code on the live stream, unfortunately. But today's conversation is squarely about a document posted by Minko Gechev himself, where he talked about what the Angular strategy was for 2025. And we thought it'd be a really good opportunity to just talk about it with you all, get your questions, go over some of the points, and just really hang out with you all for the next about 55 minutes or so. So put your questions in the chat. We would love to hear from you. I want to know what you think. Hello from Bulgaria. What's going on? All right, Minko, can you? So as people are getting ready to put their questions in the chat. Oh wow, I couldn't even get my question out for you before somebody already put something. So let's hear from Michael Small, who is one of our community champions out in, especially in Reddit space. I'm always seeing Michael there, answering questions, helping to clarify things, pointing people in the right direction. So thank you for that. We see you. We appreciate that. A question from the Reddit thread about the Q&A. I would love to hear something about what they will do with unit testing this year or end-to-end testing. I feel like the current situation is a bit weird.
Yeah, I'd love to learn more about end-to-end testing to see what you find weird there. Specifically for unit testing, currently we're still on Karma, and Karma is a deprecated solution. We would like to move away from Karma. And we have some really good folks on the tooling team who are exploring what tool we should move on, we should move to. And I think you've discussed that in previous streams with Jeremy. We have some kind of intuition for what best practices for unit testing are. And we would like to make sure that by default, our solution enables testing in a real browser instead of Node.js environment, such as Jest. So we would likely not be able to make Jest the default recommended solution, but we're currently looking into Web Test Runner and vtest. Both of them allow you to run tests in the browser. And yeah, there are different trade-offs of both approaches.
Excellent. Great question. Okay, see, someone Jeremy just asked about v-test when. So great, good question. All right, let's see. Okay, we got a lot of good questions popping in here. All right, is internationalization ever going to wait to be used in development server without actual hurdles? That's a little vague.
Yeah, I would love to learn more about DevX issues, developer experience issues that you're having here, and we can look into it and prioritize it for sure. I'll be happy to just share on a high level how do we prioritize issues and how do we incorporate all the feedback that we receive, if that's going to be helpful.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's see, what else can we ask? VTest now has okay. Okay, so looking forward to signal forms moving away from Karma. Curious to hear about the RSC for selectorless components. Is there anything more that you can share besides what was in the article?
Yeah. So selectorless, I'll start with selectorless here. It's pretty high priority on our list because we see a lot of people reporting that they have a lot of boilerplate with standalone components. And some other people say, well, we have double imports. Others say, oh, our import statement is just so long right now. And you can solve each one of these in a different way, but in case we move to selectorless, we're going to solve all of these, resolve all of these issues with just a single feature. That's something similar to what we did with signals. People are experiencing so many like developer experience challenges in very different areas of the framework, and we're just with signals we resolved most of them, which is a lot of them, not most of them, but a lot of them, which is fantastic. One thing with selectorless is that it is kind of like a shift on how you think about the applications right now. You don't have to think about a selector right now. You just need to import a component and reuse it directly in your template. So we would like to make sure we do it right. We consider host elements and much more. And that's why we're targeting to have an RFC sometime this year. And also we have a lot on our backlog with zoneless. We still have more to do in reactivity, forms. Yeah, forms are coming soon. I can't commit to a release, but in the next months, we're going to have something to play with. And yeah, we already talked a little bit about Karma.
All right, let's get some more questions up here. How is Angular handling the need to build AI front-end apps at Google at a fast pace? Is it the right tool for the job? Is it becoming blocking? How can things be improved?
Yeah, I need a good question. So when it comes down to, I guess, Angular, how is it impacted by the Gen AI revolution right now? I'll say there are a couple of ways you can use Gen AI with Angular, or certain Gen AI tools can support Angular to generate applications. I assume you're asking more about the latter, about the second one. How do we generate some application code like Angular code based on Gen AI? So in Google, we have pretty good machine learning infrastructure and pretty great models that use the Helm repo. You can train them on the Helm repo and have really good auto completion suggestions. Sundar, I think, had a statement that about 25% of the new code in Google is now written by AI, which is great. And Angular is a big part of this code. Some challenges that we have with Gen AI is frequent API changes, respectively, and could generate like a little bit like older versions of the code, but there are easy workarounds. You can have multi-shot prompting. That's something that like Mark has been, for example, experimenting with, and we can from there introduce automated migrations, and we can train the models on this new later syntax. I wouldn't say that there are any like major blockers at Google. Angular and Wiz are the de facto, like the only general availability frameworks. And they all function pretty well with the current AI tooling that we have.
Yeah, and I can just add just a little bit to that. So last year we ran a early access preview of some code generation in Angular.dev to see what was possible, right? And then we got some feedback. And we learned a lot actually about what the expectations of developers were. And this is specifically for code generation and like UI component generation. We learned some really interesting things about what developers were expecting, like what your tolerances were around how good the code had to be for you to think that it was worth your time, for example. And then we also learned just some things about how to interact with this idea that there are, like Minko said, API changes that happen, and then how do we keep the models or keep the code generation like in line? Right now, I'm working on a second phase of this, doing some experimentation because we work at Google. That's what we do. We experiment with things. We try things. So right now, and actually, Minko and I were recently talking about. I was sharing some docs with him about what I'm working on next because I think that there's some interesting opportunities for us to continue to be a part of how generated code looks at Angular. How generated code for Angular looks, and then how does that impact developers in our community. So yeah, we're definitely working on things and interested in things, but of course there are things that you just have to wait to see because it takes time to do stuff. It takes time. All right, now the questions are pouring in, Minko. So I'm loving this. Let's see. I'm going to tag some more of these, and I'm going to put some more on the board here. Mohit asks, any improvements to the dev experience for Angular elements?
Yeah, something that we're looking at right now is improvements in the custom element schema for type checking. So I guess that's going to be one of the major improvements there. And obviously all the other changes that we're doing, such as default content for ng content and like eventually selectorless, all of these are improvements in the Angular component model, which are going to be part of Angular elements as well. But I'll say that's one main feature that we're currently looking at. And since I see a lot of questions about features, let me just share on a high level, how are we usually, like on a very high level, how are we planning our releases? And how are we doing planning might be relevant. So we have one very high level vision on where we believe that Angular will be 3 to 5 years from now or so. And it's very vague, just because like a lot of things happen in the web space, a lot of things happen in the engineering space overall. So we can't really be certain what Angular is going to look like. We need to adapt very fast so that we can keep Angular evolving and keep providing the best developer experience with the current constraints that we have and current opportunities. So it's a very high level document, and you can think about it as having initiatives such as, well, Angular is going to be zoneless, and Angular is going to have an improved authoring experience, and we'll be having selectorless, something like that. After that, every year, based on the feedback we receive from developers and the vision that we have and the opportunities that we see around, we have a document with the top features. It is very highly dependent on our developer experience or developer satisfaction survey. So wherever you ask there, we try to incorporate, we do incorporate all the top opportunities that developers are pointing out. And still, there are no specific features there, really. They're like, for example, folks are asking for better unit testing, so we prioritize investigation in that space. But we are not really committing to one particular feature in the unit testing space. We're targeting this entire feature area. And from there on, every quarter, we prioritize individual features that are more challenging or slightly like more umbrella efforts that are composition of smaller features. And for every single release, we balance between these major projects that we're working on and developer experience improvements, like the features that you're asking here in the chat. In every release, we try to incorporate as many of them as possible, while still moving larger efforts forward. So I hope that's helpful.
Excellent. Okay, before we go to the next question, I know a couple of people were mentioning that they were trying to send us questions directly. I think the best way to do that, how about this? On Twitter, because or X, there's a long character limit. Tag the @Angular account with your question if you feel like it can't fit into the character limit here. So I'm going to be able to check our social media account, and I'll be able to pull some questions from there and bring them over to here. Hopefully that'll help. All right, let's get to the next question from Michael. Michael says, would love to know more about the future collaboration opportunities with Wiz. What's the vision for Wiz plus Angular in the future?
Yeah, great question. I spend a lot of my time thinking about it. So I can share with you how are we converging Angular and Wiz on a high level again. One interesting thing is that I don't think anyone really understands both frameworks in depth, so that anyone can tell you how exactly the dependency injection mechanism of all the frameworks works, and also knowing how the code loading and reactivity works in them. So we have, at the same time, though, domain experts who really understand in depth particular feature of these frameworks. And as the time passes and we get requirements from developers, we get feature requests, we try to find a feature which would benefit from being converged into one, like reused across both frameworks. And also this would lead to improvement in the developer experience for folks using this particular feature. Let's say dependency injection. Wiz has been having certain kind of dependency injection with certain kind of features, but they saw that Angular's dependency injection might be even more beneficial for their developers. So we are in the process right now of figuring out what are the commonalities of the dependency injection across Angular and Wiz and extracting into a separate module. And that would be shared and would live on GitHub. We have similar initiative around dev tooling right now. So as you know, we have talked about it in the past. Wiz has fantastic performance. That's how it is inspiring Angular with features such as incremental hydration and also the event replay functionality that we brought directly from Wiz, and we open sourced it in the Angular repository. And Wiz is getting a lot of inspiration from Angular about developer experience. So they haven't had historically, let's say, a DevTools extension. Now we're figuring out how we can reuse Angular DevTools across both frameworks because we already have almost shared reactivity model. And the component model is converging slowly over time. So that's pretty much it. Every year we figure out opportunities for convergence based on developer requirements. We pick a feature area, we bring people together who are experts in this feature area, and we converge it. And we open source it through Angular. That's how it has been working out so far, and it has been working out pretty well, I would say. And
Excellent.
again, it's a very long-term incremental effort. It's not like a big bang rewrite or anything like that. We want to continue delivering new features while converging both frameworks.
All right, let's see. So, Minko, we got a ton of questions here. So, let's see if we can rapid fire some of these. Okay, here's another one. Is it worth converting all components of a large enterprise component into standalone?
I would say I would not stop application development and just focus on converting components to standalone, but I'll prioritize it and I'll do it on the side maybe, or I'll have certain amount of my sprint allocated to converting components because you would get a lot of benefits over time by moving to standalone components. There are some features that are standalone components only, and additionally, your application would overall get simpler and easier to reason about. So yeah, don't convert everything at once, but prioritize, dedicate some part of your time to converting to standalone components.
Okay, good. All right, let's see. I think you kind of touched on this, but because you mentioned about like the custom schema support, etc. But
yeah, custom schema, that's it. And do you and let me know also if you have any other ideas for how we can better integrate web components. I think the schema right now is number one issue.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Just let's see. Let's keep looking at some questions up here. All right, and Nia asks, "How was Angular handling?" We talked about this already. We got to that one, Nia. You don't get the same question twice. Sorry, friend. Minko, with Zoneless and Standalone, there has been a lot of talk about animations.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Here's the longer version of this question. Here you go.
Yeah.
There's an update about this actually. Well, go ahead. You could talk about it. But yeah, there's an update coming for
Sure.
this.
Yeah. So yeah, we created the Angular animations package a long time ago. Like we were working on it very actively back in 2015. I was even not part of the team back then. But back then, you really needed something expressive that allows you to animate your elements, your components, your routes, your route changes. And since then, CSS evolved so much that having CSS and having to learn another DSL or another domain-specific language on top of CSS that you can use to express the exact same animations kind of over time becomes unnecessary. So currently, like the animation package, we're still maintaining it, but we're not planning to expand it further. I would recommend you to keep using CSS animations and CSS to like accomplish similar things that you have been using the animations module for.
And stay tuned because I have some updates coming. I can't say right now, but there's a small update coming for this. Can't talk about it though. Or can I? No, I can't, right, Minko? Can I talk about the other thing? Okay.
Probably you can.
That's okay. I'll let the people come back for I'm going to be releasing some communication very soon regarding animation. So that's coming up. Okay, so will Angular internationalization ever support dynamic locale switching and ng-serve without requiring separate builds? We get this question a lot, Minko, is that people want this ability to go to a drop down, for example, and then select a different like locale or language and have it like dynamically change versus
Mhm.
having to refresh the page. But we made some strategic decisions about our current approach.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a really good video explaining this in depth.
Hmm. So will we ever change this though? Well, I guess we can't say ever. Any plans to change it?
Yeah, we don't have any short-term plans of changing it because it comes with its trade-offs. If you have dynamic switching of languages and you don't have separate builds, you need to bring. I mean, like you don't have tree shaking of these locale files, right? Because you need to bring everything that you have for the particular language. That's part of it. And the other thing is every single locale, it needs to be a binding. It needs to be some kind of a binding that you have in your applications. So this for imagine for every string, every text node, you have a separate binding. This is just a massive overhead, and that's why we decided to go with separate builds because
Mm.
of the performance impact.
Yeah, and I think that it's fair for us to acknowledge to you folks who ask this type of question. We understand that this is a trade-off to that specific like outcome of you won't be able to like dynamically like just switch everything without a page reload in those separate builds. We understood, but then given everything we just said, like that was the trade-off we were willing to make because we felt like that was the best choice. But we
Yeah.
hear you on this being a pain point for some people. We hear you. All right, let's keep going. Andres asks, are there any recent or upcoming improvements in Angular dev tools or the framework to enhance debugging and profiling?
Yeah, there are some exciting things coming up in both Angular DevTools and the framework actually.
Mm-hmm.
So we have been looking into signal debugging, and we've been collaborating with some really big teams at Google actually on figuring out what is the best UI for us. We're in very early stages so far, but I don't know if you remember last year at NGCon we had guests from YouTube, and they
Mm-hmm.
discussed how they're using signals in Wiz. So Angular signals are powering the YouTube mobile web UI. Now we're exploring how we can reuse Angular DevTools for debugging Angular applications and also Wiz applications. And since we're using very much the same signals package, and we have very similar abstractions such as like signals, effects, computed, we'd like to see whether we can reuse also the UI. As I mentioned, this is still pretty early on. I'm not expecting it to land by version 20, but we're probably going to have some mocks, and if it's relevant, we may run an RFC. I don't know if it will be helpful, but if it is helpful, definitely let us know, and we're going to run an RFC. We're going to share mocks for sure.
Okay.
And oh yeah, that was only half of the update. Sorry.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Also, we're working with Chrome DevTools
Mm-hmm.
to show you some Angular specific debugging information directly in the performance panel in there. This was possible to some extent through Angular DevTools in the past, but now with the new hooks that Chrome DevTools developed, it's even more granular and even more helpful. So this is going to probably land actually soon. I need to look at the launch calendar, but pretty soon.
All right, so let's see. I have a question. It's a little longer, but I'm going to read it, Minko, and then maybe you can get some feedback. So this one says, I love the focus on improving Angular semantics the past few years. Going forward, we see a consolidation around tooling with Vite and now the move to roll down and Vite 5 Plus, as well as Evan's work on Void Zero, which aims to be the tool that rules them all. Now, given that Next.js has seemingly committed to doing their own thing with their I guess with their tooling regard to build tools, where does Angular stand? Like in my opinion, Next.js has the mine market share that they can afford to hamstring users to use their own build tool. Angular, on the other hand, is working to improve user share that it would stand to benefit from using from user-facing Vite usage in the same way newer frameworks such as Felt and Solid. Is the door still open using Vite in a capacity comparable to other frameworks to enable the Vite plugin ecosystem, or is Angular in too deep with the Angular CLI that is not feasible?
Yeah, excellent question. I am not sure I'll be able to answer all the parts of it, but you can ask follow-up questions if I'm not, because just couldn't put the whole thing in my head.
Sure.
Yeah, you mentioned Vercel building custom build tooling and Angular working with Vite, but also having custom solution on top of Vite that abstracts Vite. And you mentioned roll down as well. So yeah, the way that Angular is approaching the situation, we have historically been, I would say, closer to Vercel having our own thing. And we saw that this was not the best path forward for us. We wanted to be closer to the ecosystem and to where developers are. So that's why we're doing this shift from a very custom end-to-end testing framework, very custom unit testing framework, very custom build solution, and so on and so forth, to picking up the tools that developers love, like, for example, Playwrights, Puppeteer, Cypress for end-to-end testing. And now we're moving away from Karma to, like, I don't know, Vitest or Jest or whatever we decide to move forward with, based on these are some of the top tools out there. We're doing something similar in our build pipeline as well. We are using Vite instead of building our own custom solution, just because, like, supporting the ecosystem enables higher innovation, not only for Angular itself, but also for the broader ecosystem itself. So that's why we don't want to force anyone to use our custom build tooling. Saying that, we have an abstraction on top of it, which is the Angular CLI. And we're very intentional about this abstraction because we want to be able to shift the internals without breaking developers. Now, Vite is really getting a lot of traction, and we're really supportive of this product. But imagine in the future, something else shows up. Well, we want to be able to replace Vite with whatever is the most optimal solution for developers at that point in time without breaking existing applications. So I'll say the Angular CLI is turning into a thin abstraction on top of the community build tools that are pretty much de facto standards right now. We are kicking off a new collaboration effort with Evan Yu from Vue and from Vite and Rolldown to see how we can incorporate Rolldown now in Angular CLI as well by replacing Rollup with it. So yeah, this is just gradually evolving, and high priority for us is to be in alignment with the ecosystem while also providing smooth update experience.
Okay. Good. That's a lot, Minko. So thanks for answering that question, and thanks for submitting such a detailed, thoughtful question. All right. Related to a bug in SSR with the CDK infinite scroll update compatibility, are we going to add anything about infinite scroll to the CDK?
I'm not really sure. Yeah, we need to just make sure you comment on GitHub the relevant issue. We're focused on building accessibility primitives right now. Yeah. That's the main focus of the Angular components team. So I'm not anticipating us to land that, but let me make sure you post a link to the issue on GitHub that you're talking about so that we can add it to our, I'm sure it's already in our queue, like we can bump it up.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it going. So let's see, Angular Minko Gechev with zoneless and standalone. Would a natural consequence be to remove the animations package? Seems like animations are well covered by libraries and Tailwind. Your thoughts?
Yeah, we talked. I think we covered this one already, right? We discussed the trade-offs of CSS and animation. So my recommendation is overall to use like CSS when possible.
Yeah. I will say this though, just as a Angular developer, I remember feeling very happy about one feature that Angular animations gave us, which was the ability to know when another animation finished before triggering something else. That was a neat feature, but I don't know if that's enough for developers to be able to, to not choose something different that might be better for them, right? But I remember that feature from my animations package being super duper helpful. So I understand why some people still will want to use animation, because getting that fine grained control over timing is something, that people are interested in.
Yeah, and with web animations, you can add event listeners and do something like that as well, but not in such an expressive way currently.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, let's see. Question: Tailwind new version 4 has some cool features to build UI. Can an Angular material theme like that in a new version? Can we get an Angular material theme like that?
I'll say we could. We have enabled the new theming API that makes it very easy for anyone to create themes for Angular material. It's unlikely for us to ship it as first-party thing, as something that comes in directly with Angular material. But there is an opportunity for a community package that enables a theme like that through the new theming API that we shipped in version 19. So if you end up doing that, actually, let me know so we can increase its visibility and let people know that you built it.
Yeah, and here's another cool thing to know. I don't know if you folks have been noticing, but we've been spending a lot of time working on new guides for Angular material, putting out new resources for you, new examples. So one of my personal goals this year is to just do more of that, because every time we post a video about Angular material, people want more examples. So that's in the pipeline. Of something that we really care about doing from a documentation and like example point of view to help people be able to do more of that. So I'm working really closely with the components and material team this year to create more content around it. So stay tuned for sure. Okay, is there something on the way in the area of pipes or maybe other special template functions? I think it would be great to do something like at if call a function can post without duplicating on each comp. Oh, on each component. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this will require some more. I guess you currently can achieve that with pipes, right? So so you want to add something like how do you call this? Like a trait, or you can call it like a mix-in or something that you can reuse in the individual components. For sure, open a feature request for that. I'd say it's possible that we want to gauge the interest of the community, and if this turns out to be like a very exciting feature that people want, we're definitely going to consider it. We don't plan to implement it right now, but make sure you open a feature request so we can track the interest.
Yeah. Okay. A couple of quick ones, Minko. Sell that coffee mug. You don't have to sell it. It's a sticker. See, it's the other coffee mug on the other side. Just a sticker. So you go get an Angular sticker, and then you can sell. If you're like, oh, where do I get the Angular logo? Did you know that on Angular.dev there is a section where you can get all of our like assets, like logos, word marks, colors, all that kind of stuff. Just saying.
Community member also, I think, built an online store where you can order these.
Cool.
Not official Angular swag, but yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Check out Igor says so many interesting questions. Hey, shout out to you, by the way. I've come across some of your content recently. You've been making some really great videos just highlighting Angular features. Thank you for that. And they're really high quality.
Really high quality and like bite size. I really like them too.
Yeah, very, very good, Igor. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Let's get back to Minko still in the hot seat. We have about 27 minutes of Minko's time left. Let's make the most of this. After migrating to Angular 19, still some of the components are standalone false. Will there be any schematics which can automatically make those standalone and import wherever they're required? Minko, this is because those components are mentioned in an ng module, and that's probably why that is.
Yeah, like, well, the current schematic that allows you to move ng module or non-standalone components to standalone components, they work a lot of the time, but not 100% of the time. So when they can't move your components to standalone, they just don't. And in this case, there is some ambiguity, and they can't figure out something out by themselves. In this case, you probably need to refactor the code yourself so that you can make them standalone.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. Let's keep it moving. Let's see. Okay, Gabriel de los Rios says, when are we going to have many ng core ship with our custom elements so we can use them outside of Angular projects? That would be crazy, like crazy awesome.
Sorry, what was it? When we can...
Yeah, it's like a mini ng core. So I think this is the idea that you could do like custom elements, like web components, so you could ship them and be able to like put them in different places.
Yeah, one thing is like why not make just ng core way smaller for everyone, not only for custom elements? That's something that we want to do, and this effort that we have with the Wiz team, where we're extracting the dependency injection, so removing it to a separate package, it's not going to be distributed on npm just because for whatever reasons. We can discuss that separately if you're interested. But it will make Angular core more modular. So if you are building components and you don't use DI, you just don't bring DI, and Angular core is going to become even tinier. Now it is significantly smaller than many other alternative frameworks. It's going to get even smaller in the future. We just need to, like there are a lot of fun projects we need to do, and we just need to get to it.
Yep. All right, so let's get to another question. My own question from Michael Small. Any expectations about the planned TypeScript 6.0 deprecation of use defined for class fields false? How will that impact dependency injection? The inject schematic will be nice, but only if people will know about it. Yeah, I get this.
I am not prepared to answer this question right now. I haven't thought about it, so I need to spend some more time thinking about it, and I can follow up offline.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, when we know, you'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we know, you'll definitely know. I appreciate that. Oh, here's a good one. Are there any plans for new CDK components in 2025? It's one of my favorite parts of Angular. Okay, I'm gonna tell you something before Minko jumps in here. I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that the Angular CDK is one of our secret weapons that I feel like I wish everyone knew about. I think it is incredibly powerful, incredibly convenient, and with the right amount of experience with Angular, like imagine what you can build just with these out of the box components for things like drag and drop, blah, blah. For people who are watching, if you don't know about the CDK is like fantastic. Okay, Minko, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the tooling team right now. Not the tooling, but the component team roadmap. Seems like they have certain things that are planned, like CDK combo box, their CDK grid, tabs, toolbar. I don't know when they're gonna land. They may land this year, may land a little bit later. We're for sure working hard on accessibility primitives that you'll be able to use in your components. I don't know if there will be individual components. They'll be most likely just could be directives, could be just some services that support your accessibility of the page. But there is some good amount of very useful work happening there. And I know there are also some accessibility compliance things happening in the EU where these primitives would become even more critical. So yeah, stay tuned. We're going to announce a lot of cool things around the CDK and accessibility in version 20.
Is there any plan for Angular to support natively micro-frontends, or can the Angular team share recommendations for this topic? Yes, we can.
Micro-frontends, there are different levels of abstraction, and some tools belong to, like, I'll put them like that. Like we have programming languages that are pretty low down there. We have frameworks that are building on top of that. We have on top of that some like loading strategies like micro-frontends. So we don't necessarily need to couple Angular to micro-frontend, but if there are certain blockers to adopt micro-frontends with Angular, we need to resolve them. Like Zone.js is one of these things that makes micro-frontends with Angular a little more inconvenient. And we are working on making Angular zoneless. So I'm saying that's to just kind of elaborate on the layering of the technologies. We have different teams that are working on different micro front-end architectures. At Google, we have something by Google Cloud called Riff. There is a great talk from NG Poland where one of the engineers on Google Cloud talks about it. So we're making sure that Angular functions well with Riff. Now with zoneless, Angular is going to work better with module federation, with native federation. We have other alternative architectures. Something that is interesting that I would recommend you to have a look at is Igor, actually, who used to be on the Angular team in Cloudflare. Now he's doing a research around something called web fragments. And this seems like a good solution for micro frontends that I appreciate. And I don't see too many foot guns there. All right, we have another question. SSR in version 19 is awesome. I love Angular app node engine, but got stuck with multi-language setup. Yeah, English, German, routing is not working for second language. Do you know where I can find more info about this? So here, I'll definitely recommend you to open a feature request or a bug report in the Angular CLI, because we prioritize working on SSR and multi-language support, and I believe we resolved the issues there. So if there is something that you can't figure out, probably it's just missing, like lacking documentation. And we need to make sure we address that. All right. I personally, I can't change the questions here, but I can look at the next question on the list. Oh, here we go. We know the good parts of Angular, but what is some planned improvements for Angular that is top priority but can't be implemented right now because of other dependency? Yeah, good question. Let me look at our list of priorities. Well, I'll say a lot of things depend on zoneless. Yeah, here's one thing. Um, Actually, quite like a couple of things. Let's say incremental hydration. Um, there are some things that we may want to or may not want to implement, but let's say incremental hydration. We have incremental hydration, and you want to be able to download individual components that depend on a change that on a signal that has changed. Like, or you want to have incremental hydration and you want to trigger download of a component that is dependent on some data dependency. Let's say you have an e-commerce application. You click on a button to add a product to your shopping cart, which updates your shopping cart, which means that you want to hydrate this shopping cart component as well. Currently, there is no, I mean, you can implement some manual logic and that would work great. But in order to get framework support out of it from it, something that you need to do is use signals, and we need to make signals serializable in a way so that we can track this change of the value. So I'll say moving away from zoneless and embedding signals even more into the framework, or like recommending even higher usage of signals into the framework, is going to enable that.
Okay. Excellent. 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 All right. Here's one of the legends of Angular community, Mrs. Deborah Carrata. Welcome to the party. With so many cool changes coming out, any plans for an in-person Angular conference in the US this year? Maybe join with ngconf to keep that going.
Yeah, well, we're talking to ngconf. I just heard good news from them a couple of days ago that they are trying to figure out their plans for 2025. Conferences across the board in the US have been a little like slower compared to before the pandemic. There are a lot of very active conferences in Europe, but the US has been a little bit kind of lagging behind, unfortunately. So we're talking to ngconf, and that's going to be the conference that we will show up at. No other conferences that in the US that I know of, any Angular specific conferences.
Okay. Speaking of conferences, this is a really good question. Minko says, Jerome asks, how many croissants should it cost to make you both come to France in late May for a new Angular conference to celebrate Angular version 20?
I will be on my second honeymoon there, so during that time of the year. So unfortunately, I won't be able to make it.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I want to go to France, Minko. I mean, that sounds fun.
yeah, it sounds fantastic. Well, maybe I can plan this second honeymoon to be in south of France, or
Who knows, right? I know. Really interesting ideas there. All right, let's keep going. Any plans on signal only components so that every field is a signal?
yeah. Well, it's this could mean a lot of things. So far, we want to see what value is the current set of like signal components bringing. So on push change detection with zoneless and signals where they invalidate or mark as dirty individual components, we are not we can evaluate whether we want to go more fine grained by that than that, but it comes in with other trade-offs. You need to create more effects, you have more closures, you have more memory use. So let's we the plans for now are to observe how things are going with the current approach, and if we need to go more fine grained, we will. If we don't need to go more fine grained, we are not. So just observing the space and seeing how the adoption signal goes.
Yeah, good stuff. I like that. Yep. Sounds good. Let's see. Any plans to support .env files? Okay, because when you have sensitive data, you don't want to save it in environments.ts file, right? That's true. I like that. That's a good point. You need to
Yeah,
load it at build time or runtime.
yeah. Jan published. We have a new feature that we shipped in version 19 that I can share in the chat. Maybe it allows you to add environment variables, like use environment variables in your build, so you don't have to add them to .environments.ts. And whether it doesn't have specific integration with .env, but I'm sure you can very easily. Actually, I mean, you don't have to have integration with .env. You can just reference the individual environment variables from .env and pass them to the CLI. I will just make sure you look at the version 19 blog post to find details how to use it.
Yes, very, very cool. Yeah, actually, maybe we'll make a video about it, like a little short to kind of make that feature more visible to people. Maybe it just got lost in the avalanche of new things that we were doing. So one of the things we've been doing, for instance, community, if you notice, our YouTube shorts have been much more frequent because we noticed that we release, and this is not intentional, but sometimes we release so many like new features that people just don't even know some of the things that are available, and it's kind of hard to keep up. So we've been doing more micro videos to kind of have an idea of like, hey, did you know you could do this? Here's how you do it, and then you can get some more information. So this might be one of those other ones. Elmar just says, look, I want that mug. That's what I want. I want that coffee mug. Okay. Ooh, thank you for registering your interest in the coffee mugs. I think you talked about this. Oh, okay. This is good. What's the plan on supporting zoneless more for tests using fake async and tick?
Yeah, we probably need Andrew Scott, who's working on zoneless, to answer this question about his more specific plans. I can respond something like very vague here, which will not be too helpful.
Mm-hmm. And just to reiterate here, you mentioned about signal forms. We're working on it. We're doing stuff, but we don't know when it's coming out.
It's coming out soon. I'd say, don't want to commit to a date, but I'd say my intuition is that it's going to land sometimes in the first half of 2025.
Yeah.
If everything goes well with the world.
I'll say famous last words of any engineer. If everything goes right, then I'm going to land this tomorrow, but we never know what's going to happen. Any plans to support resource caching instead of the current approach, which seems to be storing all resources in a service provided in root, similar to a certain query library?
Are you which certain query are you talking about? 10-stack query or
might be?
You can could you share extra like another message with more details so that we can talk about this question more?
Yeah.
Yes, 10-stack query. I see. Justin, is that for a potential? Oh, I see. Well, we have some plans on our, like, we want to update our data fetching, like a little bit to work better with signals. And we currently have a resource. We may have something like HTTP resource eventually at one day, and we will probably have like a more specific design about it, and maybe run an RFC so we can discuss caching. But until then, you can use 10-stack query with Angular.
Okay. Oh, great news. Great news. It still requires some boilerplate source of the env files before running the build command. Okay, so
yeah,
Jan just came in with some answers. Thank you for that. Thanks for watching. Great. Let's see. I think shorts is a good idea. I know. Thank you. I have a good idea once in a while. Yeah, so people are liking this idea. Would love to get a video about env. Yeah, I want to talk to Jan about this and just see how we can make sure we get all the details that you could do. All right, Minko. So we have only 11 more minutes, and we probably have at least 15 more questions.
This time flew by so fast.
Yeah, so let's do this. Let's do some rapid fire where you got to answer in like 30 seconds or less on each question.
Luckily, I had coffee this morning.
Okay. Let's see. This one from Halem says, why not make CSS template like HTML, where you can do, I think this is for some, what do you call that? Interpolation in the CSS template.
Yeah. I mean, we can, if we have to. You can also use like a SAS theming. It just, like everything extends the API surface of the framework, makes it more complicated, makes it harder to maintain. So we need to balance between like expressiveness and mintability.
Yeah, now why not make view transition as a default route transition?
That's a great question. Yeah, we definitely want to move more like closer to the standards, so we can definitely evaluate whether they can meet all the use cases. But that's a great question. Definitely something that we'll consider doing in the future.
Okay, a Docker image for Angular,
Probably
or
not.
add a task to generate a Docker image. That's what it says. Yeah.
Like unlikely we're gonna couple to Docker, but if you have very specific use case and this turn out to be again like very popular feature request, we can consider.
All right, and then last one, more tutorial samples with more details about incremental hydration. Yes, we can make that. That's on my list.
We should do that. Yeah, that's another great idea.
Yeah, 100%. Halim, thank you for such a great question. Thank you all for these great questions. All right, next one. Let's see. With up to now improvements and features in Angular, when signal components get added, besides low-level change detection, what other improvements perf-wise will we have?
Yeah, well, we first want to make sure we want to enable people to adopt these new performance features. You'll be surprised how little adoption deferrable views, for example, have for faster like code loading. We want to continue increasing the visibility of these features in the broader Angular community. Some other performance related features, enhancements on incremental hydration, and we will be also looking at making Angular's bundle size smaller. Here seems like you're talking mostly about runtime performance. Like if there is a need for us to make more improvements, we will, but also, there is certain thresholds beyond which the performance is just fine. And we haven't had complaints about performance. So yeah, if you have any particular use case that you want to target, just let me know.
Any plans to bring more team members to the stream? Yes, actually. So Alex Rickabaugh, I hope you see this. Last year, you promised me we were going to do some streams together where you were going to work on some features and talk about what you were thinking. The community wants you to do this. All right. So now we got to make it happen. Yeah, we would love to do more streams to get more people on the stream. Minko was so gracious to volunteer to be able to do this. So hopefully we can get more people. And I'm just poking fun at Alex. I know he'll do it if I just pester him enough. But yes, you can see more of this. But remember, y'all also been asking us to do a bunch of work. Like you can't have it both ways. You can't have us on the stream and have us like doing a bunch of work in different features. All right.
We need Andrew Scott to talk about Zoneless.
Oh, that'd be great, actually. We're going to talk about that for sure. What was the idea behind the change to default standalone components? Is there any conceptual consideration to make on this, or is it just based on the data collected?
Yeah, well, many people on the team knew for a while that ng modules are adding additional complexity to the framework, and we wanted to do that for many years. And there were other priorities that we were chasing in the meantime, such as completing Ivy. But the main considerations were just ng modules being boilerplatey and adding additional complexity. That was it.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to say this just to save some time, Minko. Virtual Scroll CDK. Comment on that issue. And yeah, just comment on it about the scroll and stuff like that. Just comment on the issue so we can, gauge some interest and see how we can like prioritize. All right, let's see. We talked about this. Oh, we're getting close to the end of the question. We're close to the end of time, so we're getting there. The Signals API added to Angular is the right way to go. Now, I'm wondering if eventually Signals will implement RxJS operators. For example, how could we handle concat map, exhaust map, etc. by just using signals?
Yeah, I would say if Signals end up implementing all these operators, this will be scope creep and the implementation of Signals, and we'll be doing something wrong. Yeah. If you need RxJS operators and you need to deal with time in Signals, just convert them to observables and use RxJS.
Yeah, look at this love. I love Alex Rickabaugh. We do too. He's great. He really is.
He
really is great.
He explains these concepts really well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I've talked to him quite a few times where I'm just like, he'll tell me something very complex. And I'm like, wait, did I just understand that? Like super complex thing? Like, let's go. Because he's really great. Great temperament. Jeremy's another person like that, Pavel. I mean, just a sidebar here. Our team is filled with people who are really passionate about Angular, and they are so patient, so kind, and so thoughtful in explaining a lot of these things. So I think that it's no surprise that you all feel that way about people like Alex and Minko and and so forth. Can we use the analog for Angular? Yes.
I'm using it for my podcast.
You should link your podcast so people can know about it in the chat here, because we got a pretty good amount of people watching. Why doesn't Angular include prettier in ESLint by default, or at least ask during CLI at creation?
Yeah, we don't use CSLint by default because it comes with like thousands, or at least it used to come up with, let's say many hundreds of transitive dependencies. So that's what's going to make Angular CLI significantly bigger. Prettier, similarly. Also, not everyone uses prettier right now, but for prettier, we can consider.
Okay, let's see. Minko, I think we're just at I think we got like 2 questions left, and then I'm going to, yeah. All right, friends, this is your last chance to get your questions answered. We got 2 minutes left with Minko's time, and then we're going to end the stream. Will there be more investment in Angular material, especially regarding customization?
The customization, make sure you check the version 19 release. We have a lot of good stuff around customization there.
Yeah, the mat.theme API is fantastic. Really fantastic. Let's see. Is it possible to create a custom schema to disable control of specific selector?
Yeah, we'll be working on improvements in custom schema soon. Like, we are trying to prioritize highly. We're talking to native scripts about it too.
Yeah.
So that's something we're looking at. I don't believe you can do anything too fancy with it right now, like whatever you're proposing.
Yeah, man, Minko, we haven't gotten any questions about Angular Native for the first time in a long time. That's pretty great. All right, let's see. Are you maybe in talks with JetBrains people to integrate the Angular language servers a little bit more directly? Yeah, they have their own thing that they have, right, Minko?
Yeah, I believe you used to be able to select the Angular language service in WebStorm. Now their language service honestly is great.
Yeah, it is. And if Jeremy was here, he'd also second that, because Jeremy is an avid user and fan of this thing. All right, friends, I think we're going to wrap it with that right on time. Minko, you probably answered like 40 questions during this hour.
Great. Like, thank you all for really good questions. I really enjoyed chatting with you. And yeah, we can create something offline as well, something on Twitter or Blue Sky or LinkedIn.
Yeah. All right, friends. Well, hey, that's it for today's live stream. Guess what? Jeremy and I will be back with more coding, more questions in just about 2 weeks. I think it's Friday the 15th or something like that. Feb 15th, something like that. But stay tuned for some announcement date on that new stream we're going to do. I will definitely be working with people from the team to get more people on the stream. Hey, who knows? Maybe we'll do something like stream twice a month, where one of these will be something like this, where we're talking with other team members, and then we'll continue our monthly game stream. But the only way we'll know that you want that is that you subscribe, comment, like, hit the bell button. Let us know that you want to see us in the building. And friends, remember, if you've seen the Angular documentary trailer, you saw me say, everything is great, right? So if everything is great, I just need you to do one thing for me. Seriously, one thing, no matter what you do, no matter what you use, no matter where you build, just go ahead and build great apps. And we'll see you the next time. Peace.